It's time for the second part of our journey toward dotBIM exporter inside of the Tekla Structures. And we have to think, okay, so what we are dealing with, what are the requirements from the dotBIM format, and how we can translate the Tekla Structures objects into the dotBIM. So let's think a little about the domain of our problem and also about the possible architecture which we will be implementing in the next materials. So Wojciech has prepared some very nice developer tips, and let's start with just looking what he prepared in the past. And yeah, here we can see that the dotBIM is just about the meshes, about the triangles which are forming our objects. And it will be the JSON file, okay. It should be defined in the meter. Yeah, let's do it like that. And here is a very nice picture which will provide us a little of the domain language about the dotBIM format. And yeah, I think that the most important are the elements and the mesh. So let's start with just trying to sketch something about the dotBIM, about its language. So in the dotBIM, there is the distinction for the elements and element, and it was mesh. It is just a mesh. Okay, so let's stick with that. So those are the two main concepts which is related to the dotBIM format. And yeah, let's just use a little different color. So the element is just a superposition of different meshes. So for the mesh, we are providing the coordinates, the indices, and the mesh ID. I'm not sure how exactly it has to be structured, but okay, the element, it looks like it adding the information about the color. Different faces can have different colors probably, and yeah, that element has to be somehow located in the 3D space. And here we are providing the identifier of that mesh. Okay, let's see a little more. Oh, here is something. So we have the shape, the pyramid, and what is here? So here we see that that file, let's see, here it is, containing only one single geometry. So it should have only one element, and yeah, here it is. It has the unique identifier. It has some property, the type structure. And here we are providing the vector rotation, so what is the translation of that element, and also yeah, mesh identifier 0. So let's go to the meshes. Here they are. This is the list of meshes, but now for this particular file, it contains only a single element, a single mesh. And what we have here, we have the coordinates, which looks like just the array of different chords. Probably in the 3D space. The first three are for the first point, the next are for the next one, etc. And then those coordinates, they are the representation of the points, of the vertices of our geometry. So they have to be combined by some triangles. And yeah, we'll just now count those elements. The first triangle, the second, the third. Yeah. It looks like it is something like that. So now let's see how the internals of the dotBIM are represented. So we had the element, and the element class, it has the identifier, it has the mesh identifier, yeah, those translations, and the type, the color, and yeah, the dictionary for additional properties. Okay, but yeah, the most unusual is this mesh. Let's see, what is the mesh? So here we have the identifier of the mesh, and then, okay, we have the list of coordinates for the mesh vertices. This is the first thing. And then we have to somehow combine those vertices to form the triangles. Okay, so definitely the dotBIM is talking about the... Is there enter? Nope. It's talking about the triangles. This is the first quite big, I would say, distinction, that here we need to think about the triangles, how they could be formed. Okay, we want to write the exporter to the dotBIM format, and where our data will be coming from, it will be coming from the Tekla Structures. And the Tekla, it is using the solid engine. So here we have the solid, and each of the solid, it has some faces, and those faces, they are just a set of polylines. Those are rather polylines, they are not the polycurves. So just a segments of straight lines, which can have the hole or not. So definitely those faces, they are not the triangles. They can be very much higher order entities. So we will need something which will sit between the Tekla Structures and the dotBIM to make our work successful. So here, if we will just try to create that kind of a dot, let's create some more space. So what do we need? We need something for the distinction, the division of the faces, which will be get from the Tekla Structures into the triangles. So we will need something for the tessellation problem. So let's write it down. So there will be some middleman which will tessellate our faces coming from the Tekla Structures into the dotBIM, because I think that in the Tekla Open API there is no such possibility. So there is no inbuilt method, class sets, anything which can help us. So definitely here we will need some library. I don't know exactly which one, but yeah, some triangulation, or there were a set of different libraries. We will see it later. So let's start on the left side. We will have the Tekla Structures, and I want to tackle the newest version of the Tekla Structures, the Tekla 2024, because it changed quite a lot in terms of the development, and I feel that not everyone not all feel comfortable with those changes. So let's stick with the Tekla 2024, and we will create something like a plugin, because I want to have this export as fast as possible. So I don't want to have the overhead when we will create some application. So it will be the plugin. And the question is, okay, but the plugin, will it depend on the changes in the model, or it will be just a single shot, the single export operation? Rather that one, right? It will not recreate the dotBIM automatically when you will change something in the model. So it will be the non-dependent plugin. And what's more? Yeah, I think that I would like to show you how you can use the newest .NET language features coming from the newest version of the C# inside of the quite old .NET framework projects, because yeah, I feel that it will be maybe valuable for you. So yeah, newest C# language features. That is something what I would like to add. And what's more, yeah, the distribution of the install of the plugin, how it will land on the machines of the users. So let's, yeah, the typical way are the ZEP installers. So maybe we will have some separate material to show how those ZEP files can be created. Okay, so we have the Tekla on the left side, the dotBIM on the right side. We don't know exactly about the internals. We have some very basic differences, some main scopes. So now let's think, okay, so how we can structure our solution, how we can grab the data from the Tekla and put it into the dotBIM. What are the steps? And as you can see, we will deal with three different areas. So we will have the Tekla Open API for querying the model data, querying all of those solids or all of those faces. Then we will need something in between, in the middle, which will create a different geometry representation of our solids, and then just probably importing the dotBIM package from the Nugget, because I hope that Wojciech has created some such. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. So there is the package on the NuGet, and yeah, we will just reuse that. So that part is quite easy, the right side. Of course, now the most blurry one is the middle, the tessellation, but yeah, I feel that we will somehow tackle it. So that is the basic sketch. Sorry, yeah, let's do it like that. So how do I see the solution? How I would like to divide that problem into the particular projects inside of our Visual Studio solution. So yeah, we need some class library, definitely. I will start with that because at the end we will have it as a plugin. So we will not provide our users the exe file, the executable, the application itself. So yeah, at the beginning we will not think too much about the UI. The UI is not the main concern for that kind of a problem. Rather, this tessellation, the speed of the algorithm, the general performance of that, those are the main important topics for me, not the shiny UI. Okay, so what we will have? We need some class library, which will communicate with Tekla Open API. That is the first thing. We will need some test project, or maybe some very small exe, just to see, okay, so how it works, how we can trigger that. And yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I said that we will not need UI, right? So let's stick with just some unit test project, which will be used to trigger communication with Open API, just for the purpose of trying. And finally, or maybe not finally, because yeah, we will get the data from the Open API, from the first library. Then we need to tessellate it, and then let's go to the dotBIM. Probably it will be all inside of one project, because I don't think that this is so big problem to split it into multiple different projects. So now you are probably thinking, okay, so why I have decided to split this and this? Why I have not created here the exe project or WPF, or anything which you can double click and see the result? Because I am pretty sure that it will distract our attention. It will, move our thinking into different areas, not to where the problem really lies. So I don't want to bother us too much. So let's stick with that solution. And later, we will just add Open API plugin attribute, the input for the class library. It should finish with the having only one project inside of our solution, which will hold the logic of that exporter, and one unit test project just to trigger are we really working correctly or not. Maybe it is too big, maybe it is too big assumption, that maybe it could be split more, but at that point I don't think that we need it more physically separated. Of course, for example, for the tessellation library, I would rather like to use some interface at the very beginning, because I am not sure that the first library which we will pick will be the good one, the library which will provide the best result. So here we need to be able to switch from different providers, but it can be done inside of one project. So yeah, let's start with that and see how far we will be able to go. So that's all for the planning. It's not a very complicated project. We will not deal with many layers, with many interactions. It's just the Tekla on the left side and the dotBIM on the right side. And the question is how to translate the data from the faces to the triangles. We will see how it will go in the next materials. So thanks.